All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Franchise Empire newsletter. Today is Monday, January 22nd. I'm excited. Part of the reason why I'm excited is because this is the first time that we are streaming this to LinkedIn, I believe. Yep, it's being streamed to LinkedIn. So, welcome to the LinkedIn family. If you're watching on LinkedIn, just say hello, drop a comment, and say hello. We will start live streaming this to LinkedIn, so I'm pretty pumped about that. In just a moment, I'll bring Kevin from backstage. But let's dive in. So today we're going to talk about, as I pause my Slack notifications, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen here. Boom. All right. So we're going to talk about one specific resale franchise. We're going to talk about one franchise of the week, one client case study, in the latest episode of the Franchise Empire show. As you're watching, if you're watching the resale, the resale, if you're watching the replay, especially on YouTube or anywhere, just let us know that you're watching the replay. I know that most of the views we wind up getting are from the replay. So let me know if you are watching the replay in the comments. And we're going to go through the newsletter. If you want to get these newsletters that we send out on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m., then you can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter, and you can get it hot in your inbox on Sunday mornings. So, okay, so we have a good one to talk about today too, because one of the businesses does $9.4 million in sales, the top location, and then averages 2.1 million, which is pretty cool. But before we do that, always hit my message from the newsletter. So, which is this? One of the mistakes I see that people make is they're buying franchises that they think would be cool to own. Oh man, it'd be so cool to own a food joint, or oh cool, it'd be so cool to own a X, Y, and Z. Most of the time that comes from you walk into a place as a customer, you see the franchise, you fall in love with the product or the service or the atmosphere or the energy, you develop these positive associations, and then you go to your spouse, ooh, wouldn't it be cool to own one of these? How do I know this? Because we did that. We did that. That was one of the things we did when we bought our franchise. But, one of the things that I didn't know before buying my first franchise is that there are some businesses and franchises that, number one, have just a better track record of success. Number two, that just purely have better unit economics, meaning they just simply show in their FDD that they just, on average, the franchises make more money. And so, one key thing to think about when you're buying a franchise is the sales to investment ratio, meaning for every dollar that you have to put out to get the business up and running, how much in sales are you making? So, as an example, a lot of food spots, let's say your average QSR, quick service restaurant, it may cost you, let's say, $400,000 to get it up and running, but maybe they only average like $700,000 in sales, right? And so there are a lot better sales to investment ratios in some different industries. So I see this mistake all the time, people getting so emotionally excited about a franchise and being sold on it before doing the due diligence or seeing the numbers or really understanding that it could be a terrible decision, could be something terrible to invest in. So, and again, I made this mistake not realizing that in order to fully replace my income, we would have had to own 3 to 5 locations. And so with each location costing between about 300K to get open at that time, actually a little bit more, then it would have taken between 900,000 to $1.5 million in startup costs to get 3 to 5 locations. Keep in mind, most of that would have been debt, right? So you put down about 20%. And so the whole point of this, and as we jump into some of these franchises that we're going to cover in this newsletter, is that there are businesses out there producing the end result that I may have needed to replace my income. No one talked to me about resale businesses or franchises. I didn't know that that existed. And 90 to 95% of franchise consultants and franchise brokers out there don't talk about resales. It's one of the things that's unique about us at Franchise Empire and, Kevin and the team is that we now have a solid track record of helping people buy resales, which is pretty cool. And as well as there are franchises that some of them are only 300K to get up and running. And in their FDD, they may show that the average franchise does $1 million in sales. There could be a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 investment to sales ratio, meaning for every dollar of investment, you're getting $4 in sales and what they're showing in their FDD. So you've got to start with the end in mind, know what your outcome is, and then choose the vehicle and the business, not reverse. Most people get excited about an opportunity and then realize that it's not the best fit. So with that said, Kevin, welcome on. Oh, you're on mute.
All right. Sorry. I was trying to mute myself so you didn't hear me while I was backstage, but happy Monday.
Happy Monday, man.
Yeah.
What do you see that? Do you see this often? Is this a hot topic for you too?
All the time, pretty much. I would say a majority of clients we work with. But it's interesting because we're working with two people now that own multiple QSR restaurants. So like they fall into this same exact category. And they figured it out over time, like they're pretty successful, but they want to invest in a whole another franchise that is not QSR and not even brick and mortar. They specifically want me to look for service-based franchises. It's just interesting because like they're in a pretty big brand name, they're pretty successful, but even then, I think it's taken a long time for them to get there. So they want something that is a shorter, ramp up period, and then like less capital investment to scale. So,
yeah, and I feel like that's where the trend is going in franchising overall, right? People are more interested in home services, and look, I don't blame you. I mean, opening up brick and mortar is challenging, and there are some great brick and mortar concepts outside of just food overall. But I mean, you're talking about huge investment right now. It's real estate's crazy expensive with inflation. Build out costs are through the roof, and you're talking a minimum of a year to get up and running. So when you compare that to like, hey, I could get my business launched in literally like 60 days, right? It's hard to beat.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You know how I feel about service-based franchises, but I mean, there are, in all fairness, there are some really good brick and mortar franchises for sure. So, if you have the capital and you're willing to have a longer ramp up and break even period, then there could be, definitely good opportunities out there.
Heck yeah. Shout out to Coach Joe Davis. He said, thanks for what you're doing. We'll be opening a franchise soon as well. Cool, man. Congratulations. And thanks for tuning in. And again, so we're gonna we'll dive into the franchise concepts in the newsletter. And if you want to make sure to get these in your inbox on Sundays, go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter. All right. So tell us about this resale. Interesting one.
Yeah, it is. It's a different type of franchise business and model than most, and it's probably not for everyone, but for the right personality and skill set, it could be a really good opportunity. So it's called Anago Cleaning Systems. As you can imagine, it's cleaning, but it's a commercial cleaning franchise opportunity. So, and what kind of differentiates this one is they call it like a master franchise opportunity. So the way it works is you're assigned a huge geographic area, and you're a master franchise owner. And within that geographic area, you're trying to sell unit franchises of people that want to run like a cleaning company, but aren't necessarily good at like sales and getting, the customers and handling all the back end financial office stuff. So you basically do all that for your unit franchisees and collect royalties from, them managing the actual cleaning services and crews. So it's a super interesting business model. Somebody that is good at and comfortable doing B2B sales could crush it in this business. Somebody I can go out and get contracts and then give those contracts to their unit franchise owners. And then I think probably somebody that's maybe dipped their toe into business ownership before and can kind of mentor the unit franchise owners underneath them and help them grow their business. I do think that's another big part of it, is that mentorship and coaching part of it. So, but this particular resale for Anago is in Las Vegas, huge market. Obviously, I think it's the entire Vegas metro area. Asking price is $400,000. They have $120K per month in commercial cleaning revenue, so that's existing reoccurring revenue that you would inherit. What's really interesting is it's being run completely absentee by corporate. So I guess corporate is sending someone there once a month to manage the accounts and meet with the unit franchise owners. So pretty hands off. And, if they had somebody local that could establish a centralized office, grow a sales team, really start to grow those accounts, I think it's really kind of at the baseline performance wise of what it could potentially do, especially in a market like Vegas. So right there, you look at the 2023 FDD, the AUV for 38 reporting master franchisors or franchisees, whatever you want to call them, was just around 2.7 million. So really, really strong numbers. So I'll pause there. What are your thoughts on this one, Tarek?
Yeah, super interesting. What's funny is I have a video that I made a while back. I think it's almost 2 years old now. I think it's our highest performing video where I talked about some low cost franchises to build wealth, and Anago is in there. What's funny is I didn't even know how to pronounce them. I think I said Anago or something.
I'm probably too, I don't know.
No, you pronounced it correctly.
All right.
But I thought that was funny. But yeah, so master franchising is pretty fascinating to me. And yeah, to me, I mean, my thoughts overall is someone who is a true empire builder, right? Like someone who, that has high D, type A, our type of personality style, Kevin, would probably crush it in this sort of business overall. Just that go-getter, someone who's not shy, like willing to grab the bull by the horn. Seems like an attractive opportunity. I didn't realize that this was a corporate run territory, which to me just speaks at even more of the opportunity. It's just so hard. If that's not the business model, running corporate units, it's really hard to master that, pun intended.
Yeah.
There's my dad joke.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I do agree with you. Like people that are high D that can do sales, because there's two elements. You have to sell like the big commercial accounts, but you also have to sell the unit franchise owners and basically joining under your umbrella brand and working with you. So yeah, that's why I almost feel like you need to have some experience running a business to kind of maybe excel in this one. I don't know if it's 100% necessary. I'd be curious what they have to say, but it seems like one that's a little bit more complex than others.
The type of person I think this would be perfect for? Someone that is currently managing or overseeing multiple locations in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, my buddy Adam, who owns 7 territories of Budget Blinds, before he did that, he oversaw something like 100 locations for O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Oh, wow.
So he's like a territory manager. So, he had, I think, like regional managers that reported to him, as well as the store managers reported to the regionals. But he was so used to looking at profit and loss statements and just like having those high level conversations. So I think someone out there who's that sophisticated kind of person, used to running the show in the corporate world, like this is perfect, because I think with master franchisors, I think you have to have your own FDD technically. That's why they call them master franchisors. And so you're going to have to be going through FDDs with people, doing FDD reviews for the franchisees you're recruiting, helping with profit and loss statements. So I think someone with that experience would probably be perfect for this, or someone who has business experience as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because I feel like if you did have the former experience where you managed a lot of different units, and then you could just hire like sales reps and manage the sales team along with that. So that is an interesting one. But yeah, I kind of explained a little bit about this. I mean, already, but yeah, it's an interesting opportunity. I think there's a couple people that I have in mind for this one. But if anybody's interested, yeah, click on the link and we can get you more information on this particular resale.
100%. Yeah. So for as Kevin mentioned, you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales. And yeah, you can set up a free call with the team to see what kind of resales are available in your area. Or if you're in Vegas or you want to move, I feel like this is an opportunity. Like if there was someone maybe who kind of younger, hungry, been successful, maybe doesn't, I mean, I guess if you have a family, you can move too, but that might be a little challenging. But someone who is like, man, I just want to find the right opportunity. I'm willing to go anywhere. This could actually be something cool for someone like that.
For sure. Yeah.
And it doesn't really snow, I don't think, in Vegas, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it gets cold at night during the winter, but yeah, it's definitely better weather than Omaha where I live. So
for sure. Cool. All right. So kind of hitting on my initial point in the email around, people kind of getting in their head, they want to own something. So this was a client that we worked with, Ashley and her husband Ryan. So they had owned furniture stores for 15 years, and when COVID came, it pretty much wrecked their business. And they had multiple locations, I think a warehouse too, and they wind up just having to close. They decided to just close everything down, to just shut the entire business down. And they came to us saying they really wanted to open one of these sexy coffee franchises. And, there's a bunch of them really popping up. And I think there are people that are successful with them overall. But with some of the things they had said that were some of their struggles with their business, I just said to them, I said, I think, opening up a coffee shop, I think is a terrible idea. You're talking about another taking out big debt. You're talking about opening, having your staff have to be there at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, open long hours. And they were still they weren't quite sold on not doing it. And then once they came into the system and started working with us, they wind up going in the home services direction, actually. And you can check out Ashley's story and see her video, her review, testimonial, whatever you want to call it, by going to franchiseempire.com/reviews. But when she went through the Zero to Profitable franchise system, she said it was actually like getting a master's in franchising, which I thought was pretty cool. And you know why I really appreciated this, Kevin, is because like her and her husband ran and operated a business successfully for a long time, right? And like smart enough to know like, hey, we don't know what we don't know. Like we want to get this right, so let's get the help that we need. And I thought that was pretty cool. That's like a savvy move from experienced entrepreneurs.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's rough, dude. Like I hate hearing those stories about people that have, during COVID and they got shut down. That's just like, I hate hearing that, but good for them on taking another shot and going for it again. And yeah, that takes some guts.
It does. All right, franchise of the week.
I love
what we got here.
Yeah, dude, this is one of my favorite franchises, Superior Fence and Rail. So usually like when we have clients that are open or interested in service-based opportunities, like I will always almost do a check to see if this one's available. There's like some of those that is just like really, really good opportunities, and I want to see if it's available. It is also pretty well established, so it's kind of rare there's open markets, but Superior Fence and Rail, they're a fencing company. They do residential and commercial fencing, all different types of fencing, vinyl, wood, gates, things like that. But they were started in 2001 in Orlando. They started franchising in 2017 and then just grew super fast. I think they sold over 100 units in 2024. So, and then they were acquired by Outdoor Living Brands parent company, Empower Brands, in 2021. So now they have, I think there's 74 franchise units open as of now. The total investment range for this one's between 130 and 206,000. So really not that bad. You could do like an SBA, seven or not 7-A, SBA express loan for this franchise opportunity, most likely. But why I like this one is they have different revenue streams. So what makes them different is they have a machine at their warehouse that prefabricates all the fencing products. And so most fencing companies of your competitors are going to order all the materials that are prefabricated, and it's very expensive for them to acquire those materials. Whereas in Superior, they do all their own prefabrication in-house. So it increases their margins significantly. They also end up doing the prefab and selling material to their competitors in their market. So that's a whole nother revenue stream that they can capitalize on.
Interesting.
Yeah, yes. So I know they make a good amount of money through that revenue stream as well, because it just makes sense for those other local companies to buy from them than like the big suppliers. So yeah, really interesting. I mean, this is a pretty intensive like operations business. You need to be a true CEO because you're going to have salespeople that you're managing. You're going to have like production crews. You're probably going to have a production manager at some point that manages all those crews. But what I like about it is like their high ticket prices, and the installs take usually between 1 and 3 days, depending on the size of the project. So your margins are pretty sound on these projects. And then if you look at, if we can scroll, I kind of went out of order, sorry, but if you scroll back up to the item 19, really strong financial performance. So like you mentioned in the headline, that the top unit's doing 9.46 million, which is crazy. But on average, among the franchises that are reported here, it's about 2.8 million in gross revenue. So really, really impressive, scalable franchise. One of my favorites. We had somebody in the Portland area buy 3 territories of this one, Portland, Oregon, late last year. So yeah, have you worked with this one before? Are you familiar with this one, Tarek?
Just from like, just doing research on some of the different ones that I've made content on. But no, I that was a lot of that was new to me, that you just said live. So I think that's pretty cool that they do their own in-house prefab to increase margins. That's pretty cool. And then I was just seeing this, reading that they have a relationship with Home Depot, and they send them their leads for installations. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow, it seems awesome. I think they got started in Florida or Orlando, where I'm at. When I had looked through their FDD.
Yeah, they're out of Orlando.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And again, this kind of takes back to, oh, that's right, you said it. So they started in 2001 and didn't start franchising until 16 years later. 16 years later. So I love some of those stories that just like they went out, mastered their business, mastered the craft. This isn't a business that just kind of threw it all together a year ago.
No.
Just to franchise the business. Like they've got a solid track record, and I like those. Again, I say it every week. My bias starts to show. I kind of like those bluer chip opportunities. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this particular niche in the home services space is interesting, because it is technical enough, and there is a big enough barrier to entry where not like every like chuck in a truck handyman is going to be doing fencing for the most part, or like installing gates. But at the same time, you don't need like somebody that's gone through, plumbing school, or is a master electrician that's gone through years of schooling. Is really expensive to pay those salaries. You can train people on how to do these fence installations, so I think it's a healthy balance between those two, which I love. And yeah, this would be one that like would be at the top of my list if I were to invest in a franchise, for sure.
Yeah, it's it's pretty cool. When you mention that, I feel like this is one of those industries that is still pretty what's the word, fragmented,
Hmm.
right? Where it's probably mostly mom and pop places, not a ton of franchise in the space. I think I've seen one or two pop up since they came out. Um, but it's pretty fragmented, which usually is kind of ripe for disruption in the franchise space, which I think is pretty cool. And then for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, maybe in the newsletter, like Kevin and I have been talking about pretty much every week, is right now part of the reason why I'm incredibly bullish on just home services overall or anything involving improvement is that people are not going to be selling their homes right now, or unless they really have to, because they want to stay locked into their low mortgages. And so, if someone, and usually a fencing job is not cheap, right? I mean, that's like you mentioned before, it's higher ticket, so it's usually something where if someone's like, okay, we're gonna stay in this house for a couple more years, so we might as well get that fence installed, like we wanted to do, but weren't going to do because our initial plans were we were going to sell and get a different house, but we're not going to do that now. So, again, I'll bring it up every week as we talk about home services, but I think that's a huge opportunity there.
Yeah.
Cool. So for those of you who want to see if they're available in your area, you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. And you can check on any franchises available in your area. Be able to set up a quick 15-minute call with Kevin or Carista, who lead our brokerage team over here, and they'll be able to check on those things for you completely free. Super simple, super easy. All right, so on our episode of the Franchise Empire Show, this was a cool one. So I got to interview a guy who's owned over 30 different Taco Bell and KFC franchises, built a $33 million a year franchise empire. Just insane. I mean, the level of magnitude that something like that takes to pull off is just crazy. Now he had capital partners, and it was a group behind this. So, but just an incredible experience. So you can check out the interview with Peter. He's a business broker now, so he primarily helps people sell their businesses. Is really the primary space that he's in. But just a sharp dude, knows his stuff. Nothing like, not your fluff kind of guy. Just like gives it to you straight, which I appreciated. So super super cool guy. And then, as I mentioned, if you guys want to get this Sunday mornings in your inbox, go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter. Kevin, what else? Any other parting words? What do you think? What are you seeing out there in the franchise world?
I'd be curious. I mean, we kind of talked about service-based businesses, and then you have that podcast with Peter. Would he, when you asked him about his experience, you think he would redo it all over again if he were to restart? Would he invest in QSR franchises again, or would he do something else?
Man, I wish you would. I wish you would have told me to ask that question before. I don't think I asked him that question. Yeah, but I'm gonna throw that on the list next time I catch someone like that. But that is a good question. That is a really good question. I wonder what he would say.
Yeah, I mean, because like the people I mentioned before, one of them owns multiple Jersey Mikes, and I asked them that, and they said no, they wouldn't. They would have done something else, and they're pretty damn successful. But I think it took a long time and a lot of capital to get there. So yeah, I'd be curious with something like that. I mean, those empire brands like KFC and Taco Bell though are a whole different animal, I feel like. And it sounds like he was like well funded with partners. So that would be the only way I would do something like that, where you could do multiples. But just doing like a one off of one of those type of brands, I feel like that's not a good idea.
No, and the franchisor probably wouldn't even let you. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe back in the day they did, but these days, I mean, I think Five Guys. So my favorite burger spot is Five Guys. Actually, Shake Shack's starting to grow on me even more. Um, but Five Guys, I think they say you have to have access to $5 million in capital.
Yeah.
And then you have to open up a minimum of a certain amount. So a lot of those bigger players are like that anyways. Not for us average Joes.
I don't want any part of it anyway, so they can, whatever.
Yeah, you can keep it.
Yeah.
You can keep it. Kevin's gonna be over there installing your fence.
I'm happy to install all your fences at your Five Guys across Orlando.
All right, guys. Good to see you. We'll be doing this every Monday. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, talk to you later.
All right, bye.